Called the Hawaii ruling judicial overreach. And today, Sean Spicer said the Justice Department is exploring all options to defend the executive order and appeal the, quote, flawed rulings. Joining us now is CNN's Jessica Schneider. So, Jessica, the Trump administration took great pains to rewrite this executive order. Both judges who halted it are saying it's the president's own campaign statements, in part, that gave them pause.
Well, Anderson, a majority of both of these opinions, they went into painstaking detail about all of the comments President Trump and his team made, specifically referring to their plans for a Muslim ban. Both of these judges, they cited then-candidate Trump's interview right here on CNN with you, Anderson, where he said, "I think Islam hates us." They also referred to a press release from the Trump campaign team calling for a complete and total shutdown of Muslims entering the U.S. The court said that those kinds of statements, coupled with White House senior advisor Stephen Miller's TV appearance when they were rewriting this order. It was when he said that the new order would have the same basic policies as the old. Well, all of that made it clear that the intent all along, the judges said, was to ban Muslims from entering the U.S. And Anderson, an interesting note, the Maryland judge actually used a great quote in this, saying, quote, "The world is not made brand new every morning, and reasonable observers have reasonable memories." So simply put, the administration could try to rewrite this, but even on their second try, people would remember their words. Anderson?
All right, Jessica Schneider. Jessica, thanks very much. Oh, Jessica, I understand there was something new about a ruling in Washington also.
Yeah, just in the past minute or two, Anderson, I just got an alert, actually. The judge out in Seattle, it was the same judge that initially put a halt to President Trump's first executive order. Well, there's a lot of legal wranglings out in Washington still, but there was a minor ruling that the Trump administration might be able to claim some victory about. The judge out there has just refused to grant the state of Washington's request to enforce that preliminary injunction that extended to the first travel ban. The judge there refused to extend that preliminary injunction to this current travel ban. So they still have more legal fight out there in Washington. This was just one part of it. So it's a little bit of a victory for the Trump administration, but who knows how else this judge will rule.
All right,
Anderson?
Jessica, thanks very much. With me now is the Washington State Attorney General, Bob Ferguson, who successfully challenged the first version of the travel ban. Also, the Maryland Attorney General, Brian Frosh, and CNN senior legal analyst, Jeffrey Toobin. Attorney General Ferguson, first of all, what do you make of what Jessica Schneider just reported about what a preliminary ruling from the judge in Washington?
You bet. So that was a decision that Judge Robart made yesterday, an oral ruling he made yesterday. So if I'm understanding her correctly, he simply put that in writing. What that goes to is we had two arguments, Anderson. Our first argument was that the original injunction that Judge Robart here in Seattle applied to the first executive order should still apply to the second executive order. He denied that. We still have our main argument, essentially, that, of course, like Hawaii, like Maryland, that the new executive order should also be under an injunction. We'll be continuing our process with that claim.
And Attorney General Frosh, both rulings last night, including one from your state of Maryland, cited the president's statements from the campaign trail about a Muslim ban, one of the interviews that I did with him early on in Mar-a-Lago. But views evolve. Campaign statements are often very different than subsequent policy. Why is it prudent to apply what the president said last year to this executive order? Why isn't the executive order judged on its own?
Well, no judge, as the judge in Maryland said, is born yesterday. I mean, you look at it in context. President Trump promised a travel ban, a Muslim ban, while he was campaigning. He said he was going to implement it after he was elected. Rudy Giuliani said, President Trump came to him, said, "I want to do a Muslim ban, make it legal for me." The judges understand that. They're supposed to take it in context, and they did. It's a Muslim ban. It's a violation of the First Amendment. It prefers one religion and disfavors another. It's a classic constitutional violation.
Attorney General Ferguson, to that point, though, the executive order does not have any language in it that refers to trying to ban Muslims, trying to keep Muslims out of the country. I know, obviously, the 6 countries that there is a temporary ban of are Muslim-majority countries. How, on paper, though, is that a Muslim ban?
Yeah, so a document, that's a piece of legislation, or in this case, an executive order, can, on its face, on the words of a document, seem to be benign, but when you look behind the motivation for that legislation, for that executive order, a court's allowed to look behind it to look at the motivation, because it could have an anti-constitutional effect in the motivation behind it. That's what we're getting to here. The statements behind it are what's causing concern from federal judge after federal judge. Now I think 6 have looked at this and reached the identical conclusion and continue to reject the administration's arguments.